Now, I don't want to say I know what even a jinn is, right? Jinn is made of fire. I don't think this means fire like this on the stove. I think this is saying the jinn is another level of existence. I mean, we look at ourselves as particulate matter based on subatomic particles. We look at angels based on light in its absolute sense. Jinn are somewhere other than those two. I don't know exactly where that is. But we have this concept called entropy. And what entropy means is that if you are not putting energy in to a system, that system is moving toward chaos. This is what Islam is really about. The whole idea of Islam is to create individuals and a society who by choice are willing to put energy in to carry out the will of Allah. If you are not willing to put energy in to carry out the will of Allah, whether you are at the subatomic level or at the level of human society, you will be having entropy take place. And entropy is the movement toward chaos when there is not new energy coming in. In other words, if we had the planet Earth and we were to shut the planet Earth off in something that cut off all types of energy that could possibly get through, then Earth, instead of people reproducing and moving on and new life coming, we would be decaying towards a total chaos, and there would be nothing but dead matter left. And the same thing is true in human society. So I sometimes call this social entropy. That if, as a society, we are not willing to put energy in to act as Allah wants us to do as His Khalifa, we are then going to move to chaos in every way. And this is what is happening in the world today. We are not putting energy in to move in a positive direction. So since we don't put energy in to move in a positive direction, you cannot drift positive, because in psychology there's the concept of behavioral drift. Which is another way of saying the same thing. If you are not putting energy into a learning experience, you will be moving away from what you want to learn. In other words, if you want children to learn multiplication tables, they have to put energy in to learn it. They put no energy in, or they learn it partially and then they quit. Behavioral drift, they are not going to drift to know the whole multiplication tables if they stop halfway. They are going to drift away from what they did know. Behavioral drift is in only one direction. I consider all of this, entropy, social entropy, and behavioral drift, to be part of the work of shaitan. That shaitan has an influence in the material world, that Allah has allowed shaitan to have an influence in the material world. And that influence is to allow you to digress or move away from Allah by not putting energy in. That shaitan can say to you, you should come to me, you should not go to Allah. You want to go to Allah? Allah is going to ask you to do this, He's going to ask you to do that. He's constantly going to be asking you to do something and put energy in. But me, I make it really easy for you. You want to come to me, you just do nothing. And then you drift to me. And this seems to be the way the physical world is set up. It is set up in physics, right? And this is just a word from physics. If we did not have sunlight coming to the earth, we wouldn't be here. If Allah was not putting sunlight from the sun onto the earth in exactly the portions He put it, and hadn't put the particular chemicals that He put on the earth in the way that He put them, we would be sitting here on a dead rock with nothing on it. So it appears that shaitan's role is to try and impede our progression both at the physical level, at the social level, and on the individual level. As I mentioned before, when we have these influences coming in, you know, this diagram that I'm always drawing, that both Allah and Shaitan send influences in here. And as Khalifa of Allah, we are told when a positive comes in, we are supposed to use that positive and make it powerful and make it part of it changing who we are and determining the way that we think. But if you have a negative come in, and a negative can only be from Shaitan, we are supposed to find a way to isolate it and then overwrite it so that it can't have an effect on us. And the scholars have been quite specific in the role of Khalifa of Allah, how this is what we are supposed to be doing. This is the right Islamic life. We are supposed to be perceiving all of these influences as they come upon our consciousness. And we are supposed to direct the positive ones to change our way of thinking so we move in a positive direction, both in our behavior and in our thoughts. Particularly in our thoughts, in that we are told correctly, of course, by Allah, that no behavior happens without a thought. And so if we want to change people, we have to change how people think. And if you want to really be Khalifa of Allah, you have to create a thought process and a consciousness in your mind that says you are Khalifa of Allah and motivates you to be Khalifa of Allah, and looks for influences that lead you to be Khalifa of Allah, and isolate the influences that come in from Shaitan that try and keep you from doing that. So that is the way I see Shaitan's role, without having to know at all directly what exactly it means that he is fire, but that his role is his role is to try and impede Allah's plan. And he seems to have a lot of control over the physical existence, and also over, to a large degree, over our inner speech. But Allah has given us, with our inner speech, the ability to overcome any amount of negative influence. There is no negative influence that can come in that cannot be stopped by the use of the inner speech that Allah has given us. So, although also we could exist in a world that has all sorts of influences upon us to take our thinking and therefore our behavior in a negative direction, and say no to it all with our inner speech, and say, I reject all of this negativeness, I am going to do what Allah has asked me to do regardless. That is what we are supposed to do as Khalifa of Allah. That is how we fight Shaitan.
Everything comes within the stages that you stated, from subatomic particles downwards. And Shaitan is another form of a lower quality of life.
Well,
are you trying to say the term that he is start these stages?
No. I'm saying he is neither light in its absolute sense, nor is he matter in the sense that we know of particulate matter, protons, neutrons, and electrons. But protons, neutrons, and electrons, I have said, are slow light. In the spirit world, is light in its absolute sense. Logically, then, I would say that Shaitan is some other form of altered light. That light has been altered for Shaitan and for Jinn in some form that we don't understand. But that form is other than particulate matter in the way that we see it being.
Allah creates Shaitan from fire, an angel from light, human being from clay or like. So what is fire? How do you explain it in terms of physics?
Well,